Hello, everyone, and welcome to Soul Standing. My name is Beth, and I have two critical analyses to write. So, of course, I've decided that right now is the best time to talk to you about the books that I am currently reading. Most of these, in fact, all of the physical copies I have to show you, are for my grad school courses. And then I have three other books to briefly talk to you about. Um, Now, I do have an honorable mention that I have a physical copy of, and this one I finished reading a couple of weeks ago, but this is the book I should be finishing the critical analysis on right this instant that drove me to decide that I really needed to talk to you guys. This is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Um, I despised it the first time I read it, and rereading it did not make me happier, but it did make me realize that Emily Bronte does have some beautiful turns of phrase that in turn can be very sweet and gorgeous and make you go, oh, and then the next page can creep you out. So if you're looking for a good gothic read and you don't mind just absolutely hideous individuals being the main characters and having really no redeeming qualities, go for it. That book, I rated a 3, but it's really more of a 2.25 to 2.5. However, that's just for me. My pseudo sister in law absolutely adores it and rereads it every year for her birthday, which means that come Saturday, I better not try to talk to her because Saturday is October 1st and she will have pulled out her battered and bruised copy of Wuthering Heights and begun her read through. I have this one to write a critical analysis of as well. Both of these analyses are due on Friday. This one, I need to reread the last 10 pages or so, the final story, because I'm really not sure what happened. However, this is a series of short stories by Elizabeth Gaskell called Gothic Tales. Elizabeth Gaskell wrote North and South, and she has a very dry writing style. There's not really beautiful turns of phrases in this, but she does really give you that kind of spooky Gothic vibe. The characters do not make me super happy. The stories are kind of bleh to me, but I did rate this a 3 star. There is a story in the middle of this version called Lois the Witch. It is a novella about a woman who moves from Barford, England, to Salem, Massachusetts, because at the beginning of the book, her parents have passed away, and her mother's dying um, wish, her dying confession, was to let Lois know that she has an uncle she has never before heard about, and this uncle lives in Salem, Massachusetts. And she wishes for Lois to go there because family will have to take care of her. But she ends up moving to Salem to her uncle's house right before a series of unfortunate events begin that lead to her being caught in the middle of the beginning of the Salem witch trials. So both of those books were for my British literature course. This semester, my British literature course is reading, researching, analyzing, and discussing Gothic literature from Victorian times. And our next read is Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol and Other Christmas Writings. So this is the book I need to have read for next week's discussion and critical analysis. The only story in here that I have previously read is, in fact, the book A Christmas Carol. I've read it and taught it multiple times, so I will refresh my memory on it, but I'm more concerned with reading the other short stories, and I'm super excited to read the story of the goblins who stole a sexton, um, because the first line kind of caught my attention, and I'm really not sure why it caught my attention. Let me read it to you, because it's not like the most amazing first line ever, but in an old abbey town down in this part of the country, a long, long while ago, so long that the story must be a true one, because our great grandfathers implicitly believed it, there officiated as sexton and gravedigger in the churchyard, one named Gabriel Grubb. I don't know why that first sentence caught me, but it caught me, and I'm super excited to read that story as well as the rest. Charles Dickens is not my favorite author, and Christmas is not my favorite holiday, but he does spooky very well, and I'm excited. Now moving on to my other class, which is American Literature, focusing on speculative fiction. This week we're reading Lovecraft Country by Matt Ruff. We're reading the first half this week and discussing it, and then the second half is what we need to have read for next week. And I'm about 10 pages away from completing the first half of the book, and then I can kind of focus on getting a lot of the Dickens dealt with. In speculative fiction, we are also reading this book. This is The Dark Fantastic, Race and the Imagination from Harry Potter to the Hunger Games by Ebony Elizabeth Thomas. And this is a nonfiction book by an educator and scholar um, who is a YA novelist, a fan fiction writer, and a scholar of education, obviously. And this actually uncovers and discusses and builds upon the tradition of fantasy and radical imagination in Black feminism and Afrofuturism. But it's so much more than that. That is just like the first layer. She talks a lot about fan fiction and counter storytelling, and how people, not just Black girls, but people of all races, nationalities, male, female, trans, everything, how they are re-envisioning these fantastic worlds and creating new worlds, diversity in fan fiction, etc., so that they can see themselves in the stories. But she actually also kind of delves into like the dark fantastic and why it's so whoo for people, and also why there's been a lot of issue with the other characters, especially when making book to screen adaptations, and why people get all up in arms. Now, this was published a few years ago, so it, obviously doesn't have anything in it about the new Little Mermaid, and everything going on there, but I'm really excited to see if she comes out with an essay or anything discussing that phenomenon, because it would be right up her alley. However, along with that, and with Lovecraft Country, so Lovecraft Country is this week and next week. The week after that is Mexican Gothic by Sylvia Marina Garcia. And so then next week, this is chapter 3, and the week after is chapter 4. So I can read chapters 3 and 4 of this and start this after I get done with this for my speculative fiction course. And I'm thinking I'm going to finish reading the first half of this tonight. It's like 10 pages. And then I can work on Charles Dickens, which I really don't think is going to take all that long. And, I'm listening to her read her book on audio. It's on Scribd, guys. Go check it out. Definitely recommend. It's amazing. So I can listen to those chapters. And that's super duper awesome. But also in the middle of all that, I've got a buddy read that is going on with Fiona from Reads and Eats, and Elena, my 10-year-old daughter, and myself, and both of them have read the book, but Elena has my physical copy and she set it down somewhere safe, so now we can't find it. And I was just able to get a hold of the audiobook, and I will begin that very soon. And that book is Say It Out Loud by Allison Varnes. Allison Varnes, or Varnes, I'm not really sure. She is the author of The Rebel Librarian, which we all read and super loved a few months ago. And they're waiting on me to read the book so we can all discuss it. But I do know they both really enjoyed it, so I'm looking forward to that. And then in my 2 English classes, I teach alongside my music courses. My 7th graders are reading Wonder, and we're taking our time with it and doing critical analysis and character analysis, because the kids that were in lower elementary during the pandemic, they're super struggling with being back into having to do all the in-depth analysis and studies that they really didn't have to do when they were on Zoom meetings for half a day and didn't have to really do homework. I mean, it's a struggle that we're slowly but surely trying to overcome by forcing them to do things and dealing with temper tantrums. from teenagers. But then my senior class is reading Beowulf, and we're doing in-depth discussions about how um, Beowulf was originally an oral tradition with the Vikings, and all these legends kind of coalesced. And then a priest from the Catholic Church came in and wrote it down. We're really not sure who, but most likely was a priest who wrote it down because nobody else really knew how to write at the time. And so that's where we get all the discussion about God giving Beowulf the strength, because it was probably something like Thor sent strength through Mjolnir or something. Um, and then all of a sudden, these fantastical monsters and, Odin giving them wisdom and whatever turned into the one god, and children and demons coming from Cain. Um, because that's a really good way to make them think, oh, look, you've always been one of us. Please come, quit being a pagan. We'll rescue you. So we're having a lot of good discussions on that. Um, but that's my school books, and the buddy read I'm doing, and all of my grad school stuff. And I've probably procrastinated working on my critical analyses enough at this point. So I will talk to you guys again soon. I hope you have a great week and you stay safe out there. Bye.